During the following demonstration scenarios, we are going to focus on the accounting and analytic functionality built into SAP Business One 9.1. We will demonstrate these accounting scenarios using the SAP Business One United States and Puerto Rican localizations and our demo database company, OEC Computers. Like most small businesses, OEC's landscape is constantly evolving as their products and markets change. To keep up with those changes, Dan Jenkins, the OEC controller, and his new accounting lead, Sue Topper, will show us how they configure and adapt SAP Business One accounting components to get their management team the information they need to run the business. The following demonstration scenarios will touch upon the following accounting functionality: chart of accounts, GL determinations, journal entries, journal vouchers, and journal entry templates, project accounting, transactional and financial statement reporting, and HANA financial analytics, dashboards, and KPIs. Accounting Scenario 1. With the growth of SAP HANA, OSC is starting to see a huge demand for certified SAP Linux servers from their clients. In the last several months, the sales of these servers are becoming a significant portion of the overall OEC business. To capture the detailed profitability of this growing product line, the executive management team has asked Dan to create a new product group and the necessary accounting processes to record this growing segment of their server business line. To capture these financial details, Dan has chosen to extend their existing GL chart of accounts and define a new item group to facilitate automatic GL postings. Specifically, we will see the following SAP Business One powered by SAP HANA accounting and financial focus capabilities in this first demonstration scenario: customized financial workbench, pervasive analytic KPIs and dashboards, chart of accounts, item group accounting, and enterprise search. Our scenario begins at Dan's SAP Business One's desktop, where he is reviewing the setup and controls of his new approach. Sue asked Dan about his Business One desktop. She says that at her old company, she remembers SAP Business One having a traditional menu structure, and his desktop looks nothing like the SAP Business One she remembers. He points out that this is the new Fiori interface. It is a new tool in SAP Business 9.1 for HANA, and he has chosen to place the financial process workbench on his desktop because these tasks represent the financial transactions and reports he uses the most often. This workbench gives him quick access to the most common Business One functions. Using the financial process workbench, Dan selects chart of accounts. This opens the chart of account master records window. Since Sue is new to OEC and was not around during the initial implementation, Dan fills Sue in on their configuration of the flexible chart of accounts that they have configured in SAP Business One. He points out that OEC has defined the GL chart of accounts in 4 segments. They chose 4 segments representing the account, the division, the region, and the department. Dan also reminds Sue that each segment is user definable and supports both numeric and alphanumeric structures. He selects the Cash at Bank checking account to remind her of some of the other options they have on each account record setting. They can define one or multiple currencies for an account. Accounts can be marked as confidential. This prevents unauthorized users from using them or viewing this account transaction or balance at any point. Anyway, enough about the flexible and boring details of the chart of account. What he wants to show Sue now is how he's defined the new GL accounts that he set up for the HANA server product line. He selects the revenue drawer, and then the new sales revenue HANA server account. This is the account that will be used to capture the revenue associated with the sales of any new HANA server. To capture the cost side of the equation, he goes to the cost of sales drawer. And in this drawer, he selects the new cost of goods sold HANA server, or account 515. To create the automatic linkage of these new accounts to the HANA servers in inventory and assure that each time they are sold, the right GL accounts are used, Dan has created a new item group. He opens the main menu and the new lookup feature and enters the term item group. He selects this from the menu. And on the Accounting tab, he shows Sue how he's defined the new Sales Revenue HANA Revenue account, 415. He also shows her the new Cost of Goods Sold account. There is one last linkage that is important to make all this work smoothly. The item record for each one of these servers needs to be linked to this new item group. Dan uses the Enterprise Search feature of SAP Business One on HANA to quickly bring up the item master records for all the HANA servers. He selects the Enterprise Search magnifying glass and enters the text HANA server and hits the magnifying glass icon. The search results quickly returns all instances of the text HANA server found in the company database. Since there are lots of results, he selects the layout icon to filter the results to just the information he is looking for. He selects the item under the master data record, and here he's down to only 6 records. He can see the summary details on all the items as he hovers over each one of them, or he can drill into them by clicking on the link. You can see here that the item group for this item is defined now as HANA servers. This creates the final linkage between the item group, and the correct revenue and cost of goods sold account. From now on, each time the sales team uses the HANA server in a sales document, the right GL accounts will be posted with no intervention by the accounting team. To quickly show Sue how this will all work in action, he opens a test AR invoice. From the rows, he selects one of the HANA servers. As the row fills in, he shows Sue how the new revenue and cost of goods sold accounts automatically populate into the row detail. Here's the 415 revenue account and the 515 cost of goods sold account. Dan doesn't want to save this invoice, so he cancels it. Before Sue goes, Dan wants to show Sue all of the new pervasive analytic features. Dan gives Sue a quick review of the KPIs, or key performance indicators, he has created and included on his desktop. KPIs, or key performance indicators, are singular currency amounts, percentages, or counts of transactions that are taking place in the OEC SAP Business One database. They can display GL balances, summary document amounts, and quantities of any transaction in SAP Business One. Dan's initial 2 KPIs are receivables overdue and monthly net sales revenue. Even though these 2 KPIs seem relatively simple, they're very powerful. This one gives Dan the total receivables overdue at any one point in time. And the second one, monthly net sales revenue, gives a point-in-time view of monthly net sales. Dan has also started using the pervasive dashboard design tool. Like KPIs, Dan can define his own dashboards using a simple drag-and-drop interface. In his first attempt, he created the following pervasive dashboard: aging of receivables overdue. This dashboard that Dan has created shows the aging of overdue receivables in 10-day increments. If he hovers over each bar, in this case 10 days, he can see that $525,000 is overdue 20 days, 30 days, and so forth. Accounting Scenario 2, Journal Vouchers and Journal Entries. To give a complete profitability picture of this new HANA Server product line for the entire year, Dan has asked Sue to reclassify the revenue and cost of goods sold amounts that have already been posted from the previous GL accounts to the new GL accounts. Sue will need to determine the total revenue and cost of goods sold amounts already booked from January to July and create journal entries to rebook only the amounts attributed to these HANA servers. Since Sue is very experienced with SAP Business One, she is going to create one journal voucher that will contain all the individual journal entries she will post. In the following scenario, Sue will use the following features of SAP Business One accounting module: the sales analysis report to get annual revenue and profitability information for each HANA server, the Excel export feature to calculate the cost of goods sold amount by item, journal vouchers to move the balances to the new accounts as of 7/31, journal templates to facilitate the fast and error-free posting of those journal entries, and posting periods or fiscal calendar. Like before, our scenario begins at Sue's SAP Business One desktop. Because of Sue's prior experience with SAP Business One, Sue knows that she can use the sales analysis report by items to get the revenue and gross profit amounts for each of these HANA servers during any period of time. With this information, she can build the summary journal entries that Dan has asked her to post as of 7/31. Sue selects the sales analysis report from the SAP Business One Sales AR menu. She chooses the Item tab to run the report by items. She confirms that she wants to run an annual report to return one amount for the entire period. She confirms the posting date from 1/1 to 7/31, and she also confirms that the group is HANA servers. She hits OK to run the report and bring the report to her screen. The sales analysis by item report shows her the quantity, sales amount, and gross profit for each of the 6 HANA servers that OEC has sold. Sue knows that she also needs the cost of goods sold, or COGS, totals for each item, which is not on the report, but she knows a subtraction of the report sales amount and from the gross profit amount will calculate this amount for each item. Using the built-in Microsoft Excel integration with SAP Business One, she uses the toolbar, MS Excel, to export all the items in the report to Microsoft Excel. The Excel sheet launches with the report amounts and labels already loaded. In Excel, she knows she needs to add a new column to calculate the cost of goods sold. Now she has the information she needs to rebook both the revenue amount, which is the sales amount, as well as the cost of goods sold amount. For now, she's going to keep this Excel window open and go back to Business One. She can close this report. Using the amounts in the Microsoft Excel sheet, Sue is now ready to use the journal voucher transaction to collect all these journal entries. One journal voucher will contain all the detailed journal entries for this revenue and COGS reclassification. She goes to the Financial menu and selects Journal Vouchers. Now Sue has already started this process and already created a journal voucher. She double-clicks on journal voucher number 1, and she can see within that journal voucher, there are a total of 5 journal entries. If she clicks on any one of the 5 journal entries, it will show her the detailed journal entry within that journal voucher. In this example, this one journal entry is the reclassification of both the revenue and the cost of goods sold for the S18,000 item, which is one of the HANA servers. She clicks OK to get back to the total journal voucher. At this point, Sue wants to add the 6th and final journal entry to this journal voucher. This will be the journal entry for the Fujitsu reclassification of cost of goods sold and revenue. To do so, she clicks the button Add Entry to Existing Voucher. She wants to post this to July 31st of 2014, so she enters that into the posting date. She does the same for the due date. In the remarks field, she wants to make a remark so that she can later find this journal entry. Now, as we can see, Sue is posting this back to July 31st of this year. Those happen to be closed periods, but Sue, being one of the lead accountants, has the authorization or security to post to a closed period. Sue wants to show us a little bit more about the fiscal period definitions. She goes up to the main menu and types in period. This brings up. She scrolls down to the bottom, and we can see this is the fiscal calendar, or the periods, from period 1 through period 12 for the year 2014. And if we take a closer look, we can see that both July and August of 2014 are what's called a closing period. This only allows certain people with the right authorizations to book entries. She closes the posting period window with the cancel button. As she returns to the journal voucher entry screen, Sue is also going to use a posting template she has created to simplify the data entry of these entries. A posting template allows her to predefine the set of accounts or amounts to pre-fill into a journal entry. She picks the template type percentage, then clicks on the ellipse button, choose from list to select the HANA Serve posting template that she's created. As we can see here, this fills in the 4 accounts into the details of the journal entry. These are the 4 accounts that she needs to rebook the revenue and cost of goods sold from the old accounts to the new accounts as of 7/31. With the accounts now filled in, all she needs is the amount. This is where the Excel sheet comes into play. She goes back to the Excel sheet, and since she's only booking this last and final entry for the Fujitsu TX300 server, what she needs to do is copy the sales amount and the cost of goods sold amount over to the journal entry. She selects the sales amount, she goes back to Business One, and she pastes that amount in the old revenue account. When she tabs off and goes to the next account, the system will automatically balance the entry by entering the credit amount into the new HANA Revenue Server account. She goes back to the spreadsheet to get the cost of goods sold total amount, comes back to Business One, and pastes that in the credit amount of the old cost of goods sold account. When she tabs off that, it also pre-fills in the debit amount for the new COGS account. This is the complete journal entry to rebook the revenue and the cost of goods sold from the old accounts to the new accounts that Jim has set up. With this journal voucher entry complete, she clicks Add to Voucher and Close. This returns her back to the overall journal voucher screen, and we can now see the 6 entries for the 6 different HANA servers. With the last one completed, she clicks Update. Now remember, this journal voucher has been saved to the system, but the entries in the voucher have not been posted to the general ledger. This gives Sue the ability to send this journal voucher for Dan for approval, as well as include the values of this journal entry into reports to see their impact. Sue wants to review the impact of these journal entries in the journal voucher before she gets the OK from Dan, and before she posts them to the general ledger. To see their impact, there's a delivered report that she can run called the General Ledger Report. This report allows her to include both posted entries and unposted journal vouchers in the results of the report. This General Ledger Report can be used many different ways. It allows her to select multiple accounts or different levels of accounts, as well as different posting dates, due dates, as well as many other options. Since there's so many options, Sue is going to use a new feature in version 9.1 that allows her to save the report selection criteria. She's done so she goes up to the selection criteria name, and she selects the report criteria she's saved called Revenue and COGS GL. This has the settings for the General Ledger Report that she wants that contains specific accounts as well as posting dates and other information. Now, one of the things she wants to do before she runs the report is check this box right here called Add Journal Vouchers. What this will do is add any journal vouchers that meet the criteria for date and accounts that she's selected in her selection criteria. On this reporter screen, she can see all of the journal entries that have been booked to the account she selected, which are the revenues, both the old one and the new, as well as the old cost of goods sold and the new cost of goods sold. We can also see all of the journal vouchers that Sue created but has yet to post because she selected that option. These are the 6 journal entries in the Journal Voucher 1 that contains the reclass for the revenue account, one for each HANA server that exists. The same is true. We see the opposite side of the entry for the new revenue account, which is the new HANA revenue account that Dan set up. The same is true for cost of goods sold. We see the entries coming out of the old account and into the new cost of goods sold account. This report, called General Ledger, and the ability to include general vouchers in that report before they're posted, allows Sue to see the impact of those debits and credits that she created before she actually posts them to the general ledger. Accounting Scenario 3, Project Accounting. Dan was asked by the sales manager, Kevin Lawless, if there's any way he could do some financial analysis for a project that he is working on for the CEO. They would like to test a new market in Mexico just for a few months. They would like to track all revenue and expenses for this project for just 1 month as a trial. Dan suggests that they use the SAP Business One project feature. He has set up a new project called Mexico, and he wants to sit down with Kevin and the CEO to walk through his proposal for how this project will capture the detail they need. In a meeting, Dan is ready to show Kevin the following SAP Business One functionality: project setup, project controls, recording AR and AP transactions against the project P&L reporting, user interface customization. Like before, our scenario begins at Dan's SAP Business One for HANA desktop. As we said, Dan has decided to use the project capabilities of SAP Business One to track the Mexico sales initiative. This option will be simpler and still give them the reporting they need. Dan would like to show Kevin the project setup. Here you can see the setup projects menu. From this screen, he shows Kevin the way they've set up this Mexico project. It's very simple. It's got a code, Mexico, with a short description, as well as a start and end date. Dan would also like to show Kevin how they're going to make the project mandatory on any subledger document, either an AR or an AP document, so that when those documents are entered, they will not be able to add the document until they specify the correct project. To do this, Dan has had to use the general settings cost accounting system options, as well as the project options on key GL accounts. To show Kevin how this is done, goes to Administration, System Initialization, General Settings, and then goes to the Cost Accounting tab. In this scenario, Dan has made the project code mandatory, and all postings will be blocked if a project code is not specified. For the requirement on the GL account level, Dan has set up a control on the general ledger accounts. In the chart of accounts, for example, on accounts receivable, he has set the option set to project. He's checked this box, but has not supplied a project. This will require, anytime this account is used, a project is specified. Dan wants to show Kevin a sales and a purchasing example. He will show Kevin how the project is assigned to each row for the right tracking later on in the financial reporting. It will also show him what happens when they don't specify a project on the document row. He starts by showing them an AR invoice to one of their customers, Delbert. Once he has the customer selected, he goes to the Accounting tab to specify the right project. This project will be applied to all lines on this document. He selects Mexico and goes back to the Contents tab. From here, he can enter multiple items. And in this case, this is just for example, it doesn't really matter what items he selects, but he chooses 3 items and returns back. Once he returns back to the row definition, you can see that the project field has been copied from the header on the Accounting tab to the line items in each of the individual lines. Now that he has these 3 lines, he's going to add the invoice. He's going to scroll back to that document so you can see the journal entries that were posted. He selects the Accounting tab and the golden arrow to the journal remarks. On this, the journal entry for this document, he can see that the Mexico project has been associated with all journal entries that are applicable to this invoice. He now wants to show Kevin what will happen on an AP invoice, for example, when they're submitting their expenses. He selects AP invoice, enter a date, enter a description for and we're going to say travel airfare. Go to the GL account and pick account for airfare. Now this time when we look at the project field, we'll see there's nothing in the project field. And that's because when we're entering this AP invoice, we forgot to go to the Accounting tab and actually enter the BP project first. Because we had no project at the header level, there was no project copied down to the row level. But because the controls Kevin has set up, this will not be a problem. If we were to enter an amount, let's say for $1,000 worth of airfare, tab off, and click Add, what we see is we get an error that says the GL account requires a project. So this is the second control that Kevin has put in place at the general ledger account level. We can do this in one of 2 ways. We can go right to the actual line, select on the project field, tab off, and select the Mexico project, and then post it. or we could go back to the Accounting tab and enter the project there. Now when we add this document, it should post fine because this line and every accounting entry with it has a project code attached to it. When Kevin sees this scenario, he's concerned that the project code is hidden on the Accounting tab. He asks Dan if they can move it to the Main tab so that it might not be overlooked. Dan explains that there is a new feature of 9.1. They now have the ability to move and hide standard and user-defined fields from any tab on any screen to another tab on that same screen. Dan will show Kevin how this is done. He selects the Edit Form UI option from the Tools menu. Now that Dan is in edit mode, he can move any field or hide any field. Since we want to move the BP project field, we go to the Accounting tab, select BP Project. We can now select the BP Project tab and move it up to the main tab of the window that Kevin requested. We click Escape, and it asks us if we want to save this new form. We say yes. If we go back and open up the AP invoice screen, we can now see that the BP Project field is on the main tab. This way, when they enter a vendor, like we did before, Kevin Lawless, we can go right to this field, select the project code, in this case Mexico, enter a date, and now go down to our description, select account, airfare as an example, and we can see that the project code is automatically filled in on the line. Kevin is very happy with this capability. One last thing before Kevin has to leave. Dan wants to show him one of the many financial reports they can run by project. Using the standard profit and loss report with the project selection criteria, they can get a project-specific P&L. Dan closes the AP invoice, and from the Financial Projects Workbench, Dan can run this report from the Financial Reports link. This brings up the profit and loss statement selection criteria. Now this is the standard P&L report, but it has many options. And one of the things that Dan wants to show Kevin is if you click on the expanded option, you can actually run this report with selection criteria for a specific project. In this case, the Mexico project. And now when we click OK to run the report, all we will get in this P&L report is those entries that are specific to the Mexico project. To print a boardroom quality version of this report, Dan selects the Print Preview toolbar. This will print the crystal report layout that sits behind this report. In addition to this P&L by project, there are also other project reports that we can run. Go to Financials, Financial Reports, Accounting, and run the Transaction Report by Project report. Once again, on this selection criteria, we have the ability to select the project. When I click OK, I now get a summary of all of the postings that have hit the Mexico project. To see the detail, I click the Expand button, and I can now see all of the entries that have been booked against the Mexican project, with the ability to drill into the individual journal entries. In this example, I'll drill into this accounts receivable posting. Then from there, I can go to the actual invoice that posted this entry. This project report, like many reports in SAP Business One, allows you the ability to go from a report to detailed entries all the way back to the source document. During the previous demonstration scenarios, we saw how SAP Business One 9.1, powered by SAP HANA, delivered powerful accounting controls, reporting, and analytic capabilities to facilitate the changing business environment at OEC computers. We watched as Dan and Sue used SAP Business One powered by SAP HANA to address the following accounting and control issues in support of the OEC business model: chart of accounts, GL determinations, pervasive analytics, journal entries, journal vouchers and templates, project accounting, as well as transactional and financial statement reporting. Contact your local SAP Business One partner to discuss all the SAP Business One accounting, analytic, and reporting features we did not have time to review in this video.